Hello and welcome back to another episode of Teardown Tuesday. Today's episode is a follow-up on the previous episode about a steam trap. And what I've done here is sawn apart the housing of the steam trap so that we can get a little better view of what was going on. I heard back from the technician who installed the replacement part and who actually was troubleshooting this failed valve, and we talked a little bit about what was going on. And in this case, it was installed on a booster heater for a dish machine, fed with plant steam, and the heater, the booster, would heat up the first time you turned it on, but it wouldn't heat up subsequent times. So I came back here and started looking at this float, and you remember it was full of water, and we've pretty well confirmed at this point it should not be full of water. It should not have any water in it. And you can actually see here what happens when it's submerged in water. So after some further investigation, what I found here was that this weld, this seam, actually has a very, very small crack in it. And the small crack in this seam allowed water to get inside it, especially when it was heated by steam and then cooled by condensate, created that suction that pulled water in. And I squeezed this in the vise, and you can actually see water comes out of it when it was squeezed in the vise. So we confirmed that it was full of water, just water, nothing special, and that it was cracked, that it had a cracked weld here on the edge. So if we put this back together, knowing now what it was doing in its failed state, and also knowing how it failed, we can figure out what the root cause was here. So we know that the thermostatic element had failed, that it had cracked up around the tip and broken open. You can see that split in the thermostatic bellows there. But here's what I think happened. So now with this split aside, cut away like this, you can really see what was going on. And if you remember, our inlet up here is where our condensate comes in. You can see the matching port on the back here. So in normal operation, we would expect that condensate water to fall in here and settle in this lower area and lift this float. And when the float lifted, you can see that the port, about where my finger's at, would be underwater. And the pressure in the system would force that condensate out. Except in this case, instead, what happened was the condensate water fell in, our float did not lift, so the water level kept rising and rising and rising until it got up to our thermostatic element. And if you remember, our thermostatic element expands when it's hot. So it allows steam to flow into this part of the body, push any air out, and once the steam reaches this bellows, it expands and it seals itself shut. So you can imagine this being hot and the condensate level rising and rising and rising until it reaches this bellows. The bellows cools off unevenly, pulls back, begins to let a little bit of condensate flow, and then steam reaches it again and closes it. But our condensate level is still high. The float is never lifted and we've never drained off the rest of our condensate. So in this case, the first startup of the morning, when the condensate level had dropped enough for steam to flow in the system and the bellows was open, the solenoid opens, plant steam comes in, we exchange that heat into the booster and that steam condenses back to water. The water and steam runs down here to the trap. The steam causes our bellows to close, but our condensate is filling up with nowhere to go. So flow essentially comes to a stop until enough condensate reaches our bellows. But that first cycle of the morning, we may have had enough flow to get a full heat cycle in before the condensate totally filled up. Now the next time the solenoid goes to open, there's already condensate in here, it hasn't drained off, so there's very little flow in the system. We get a little bit of flow until the steam reaches the bellows, and then it's a battle between the steam and the condensate water as to whether or not the bellows is open or closed, and our float is just never lifting. So because it's never lifting, this staying closed down here, this seat, we never get the correct flow amount. So we've limited flow, and we've also created a fight between the steam and the condensate to open and close the bellows. So that's why this was taken out of service and replaced. Strange problem to have, but it does happen. And really, when we look back at it, it's probably a manufacturing defect that caused the crack in this stainless steel float ball. The way these are put together, they come in with a TIG welder or with a very fine torch flame, and they melt the edge together with no filler, so it creates a very thin weld. And in this case, that thin weld cracked, and once water got in through the crack, that was it. So I thought this was interesting. Thanks, Daniel, for following up with me. Appreciate you reaching out, and I'll see you next time. Hi, folks. My name is Jack Kell, and I'm a Senior Technical Trainer for Smartcare. The video you've just watched is part of a larger series of technical training videos we make available to our technicians at Smartcare. If you found this interesting and you'd like to see more, please subscribe. I'll be releasing a new component teardown video every Tuesday in 2022. If you're already a Smartcare technician and you have a part that you'd like to see me tear down, please reach out to me internally for shipping instructions. If you're not a Smartcare technician, but you or someone you know would like to learn more about a career as a service technician specializing in commercial restaurant equipment, please check out our open positions at www.smartcaresolutions.com/careers. Thanks for watching.